Hi, this is John Deck. I'm going to give a quick overview of loading data into FuTRES using the GEOME website. I'm starting here on the FuTRES homepage at futres.org. If you go to this page, you can select products, go to data, and under data there's a link to GEOME. And a very brief instruction here about you can create an account, a new project in GEOME, and be sure to select the FuTRES team during the project creation process. So if you click on GEOME, it'll open up the GEOME webpage. And here we are at GEOME. This is the GEOME homepage, and this is a metadata base for storing information. It started out as collecting genomic observations, but it's adaptable for other kinds of data, and it's based off of Darwin Core and other community standard vocabularies. It helps people collect information and organize it. If you want more information about how GEOME works, you can click on the Getting Started page. There's some really quick instructions about how you can quickly create a new account and project. If you want more information about different aspects of GEOME, there's a video library here to watch videos. There's information about how teams and projects work. For now, in this demonstration, we'll just jump right in. If you go up here in the upper hand corner, you can either sign in or create an account. Creating an account is free for anybody. If you don't have an account already, you can click there. In my case, I'm just going to sign in right now because I have an account already. Once you're signed in, it tells you hello. There's a little greeting there so you know you're signed in. And then you can create a project up here under the same button. Click here, create a new project. And when you create a project, my FuTRES project, and you can type in a description of whatever you want to, whatever your project is about. And the important thing that you want to do at this point is make sure you select Join a Team Workspace. So click here, Existing Team Workspaces. You can see that there's 5 different teams available under GEOME. Let's select FuTRES. And what this does, the FuTRES team basically preloads all of the fields and rules that we have set up for the FuTRES project. And you're going to want to probably at first to keep the public checkbox unchecked, so you can load your data, check it first, and once you're happy with it, then you can make it public so anybody else can see it. And all you have to do is hit the Create Project button, and your project is created. I'm not going to select that button right now because I already have a project that I've set up here as an example. When you go under and you click on Workbench, the first thing you see is a list of all of your projects, my projects, and then a list of all of the public projects as well. I have a lot of projects under my account, so when you first click on this, you won't see any projects here. Well, you'll see just the project you just created. You can search for the project you want as well by clicking on Choose a Project at the top. So now we're under FuTRES Test. The first thing we're going to want to do with FuTRES Test is look at the template generator. And so on the left side, these menu options kind of go in order that you want to progress through the system. So generating a template is one of the first things you'll want to do. And on this, we can look at all of the fields that we've defined for FuTRES. They're all right here. The ones at the top here that have checkboxes and that are checked, that are grayed out, are required fields. You can add any other set of fields by checking them down here, and they will be added to your spreadsheet template. If you want more information, you can click on the link here, and I'm going to click the link next to country, and it tells you here's the column name country. It's defined by this Darwin Core term. That's our notion of what we're talking about country. There's a definition that you can read, and then there's some validation rules. So for every term, there's rules that need to be followed. And in this case, for country, it's telling you that it's a required value, and the level is error. And errors basically mean that you were not able to load any data until you provide a value. It's also telling us that there's a controlled vocabulary, and you have to provide one of these values in this list of country names in order to proceed. So you can click on any of these fields, and there's a lot of different information next to each field. Something I'm going to show is that you can actually click Save, and it'll create a template. So you can call test template, and now we've just saved these options here under a template configuration called test template. There's another one called kitty example. I'm going to select that one for now, and you'll see that there's some other boxes are now checked in this list. This basically now will generate a spreadsheet with all of these attributes that we just selected, and we can open up the spreadsheet, and there's an instructions tab. There's a tab called samples, and you'll see in the samples tab, this is where it's asking you to enter data, so you can copy your data from another spreadsheet. If you want, you could just use an existing spreadsheet you have, but make sure that you use these column names that are at the top. So the first row has to be the column headers, and then subsequent rows is the data. And you can see, so for particular values, there's a lookup lists here. So for basis of record, you can see that there's some, these are the values that are required for basis of record. Country has particular values as well. Filled out. And when you look at the samples fields tab, you can see all the column names, their definitions, and then in column C you can see the controlled vocabulary. So for measurement type, measurement unit, these are the different controlled vocabulary. So if you look over in the list tab, you can see here's measurement unit. These are the available units that you can select when loading your data. The measurement type, these are the list of FuTRES measurement types as defined by the FuTRES ontology. So this is just a short list of current types of measurements that we have in the system now, and we're going to be adding more in the future. So that's the spreadsheet. I'm going to close this and open up, here's a new spreadsheet with just some sample data. And I pulled this from Kitty's data, but I've modified it just for the sake of illustration here. And I've saved this. I filled out data using the spreadsheet. I go back to GEOME. I click on Load Data, and by the way, you can load data as a CSV file if you want, or an Excel workbook. In this case, it's an Excel workbook. I'm selecting the workbook. It comes up with, first, if you provide coordinate information, it says, is this the coordinates of your data? I've actually just made this information up, so these are not the real coordinates of this actual data. But I'm just going to say, yes, this looks good. And then you choose, you either create a new expedition or you choose an expedition. So if you, for instance, want to modify your data and reload it, you can do that and then reload it under the same expedition name. So you can create expeditions correspond roughly to spreadsheets that you can load. So you say in your project you have a big project that spans multiple counties or multiple countries, and each country maybe you have in a different spreadsheet. You can load them individually as expeditions. So I click, once I create the expedition name, I click load. Now it gives me some validation results, and there's some information here that's telling us error, invalid data format. Age value contains non-float value NA. Okay, so this, we put in, the NA was put as an age value. It's better to just leave that blank. That's what it's telling us there. Missing column, measurement unit has a missing cell value. So we provided a measurement value, but no units. So units are important. I'm going to say millimeters here for all these measurements. I'm going to go to the last error is a dependent column value check. Age value has value 4, but associated column age estimation method has no value. So what it's telling us is that we have to have an age estimation method. So we provided this data that even though age value is not required, it's telling us that we need an age estimation method if we provide this data. This is telling us that this fossil specimen, someone is saying 3.5 years old. I'm going to make something up here. Tooth measurements based on teeth, and a real biologist here would be able to put something more pertinent. Okay, so now I've answered all of these errors here. I'm going to reload the data. Yes, that looks good. Keep the same expedition. Now it tells me that it has been successfully uploaded. So if we look at project overview, it tells us some information about this data set. There's 8 samples, 1 collecting event, and 8 different types of diagnostics and measurements. If we click on this, it shows us our data on a map. If there's, and then you could also click the table here, and you can select rows, and you can look at your data. Here's an individual record that tells us the catalog number we provided, the basis of record, and what project it's a part of, FuTRES test. If you click here, it brings us back to the FuTRES test project. So this is your own individual project, and importantly, it tells you that you're part of the FuTRES team workspace. So anybody who selects the FuTRES team workspace, we'll be able to aggregate all of this data together as part of the FuTRES project. One last thing is that we provided this this project as it's not public, and it says so under the project overview here. So click on project settings, and you can switch when you're ready. You can switch this from private to public. You can also update the description and the title here. If you want to, you can delete the project and start over. And that's pretty much it for loading data into the GEOME system. And if you have any questions, you can send me an email. My email is jdac88@gmail.com. Thank you very much.